friend of this show, friend of Will Parkinson's Turn on the Jets podcast, Damien Woody. This was D Wood talking about the Jets offensive line. I'm going to play you the first clip, and then we'll talk about it because these are some interesting comments from a guy who obviously knows what a good offensive line is supposed to look like.
Continuity that they're going to have on the line is going to be tremendous because that's something that the Jets haven't had a lot of, over the years. It's continuity with guys up front. They've invested a lot of assets, on the offensive line now, with Olu and Membu and Tipman, and those guys should be the cornerstones of the offensive line for years to come. And as long as those guys can continue to play together, to me, that unit, in my opinion, should be the best unit on the team. And if I was speaking to those guys right now, I would tell them, this team is going to go as far as they go. They got to be the tone setters of this whole thing. And if they do that and embrace that, this team can be damn good because there's a lot of pieces on offense that this team can work with.
Let's just start with those comments there about the offensive line. You're studying the film on all these guys and all units of the team. How would you assess the Jets offensive line, given the fact when we talk about the Jets, we say, well, the offensive line is pretty good on paper for Geno Smith.
Yeah, I think they're really one piece away from it being what should be a guaranteed top 10 offensive line. I think anything less than near top 12, this is disappointing, or would be disappointing. We have a weak link, and obviously in Myers, but I think past that, you're looking at Fashanu, who should be plus average this year. Tipman, in my opinion, was the second best offensive lineman on the Jets last year. So he's already very solid. Membu. Listen, I do a top 25 every year in the offseason, and Membu, predictively, is going to be my second best Jet on the team in 2026. I think only Garrett Wilson right now is going to be better than him in the 2026 season. So he's obviously a stud. And then Parham's a guy who I would say I'm a little bit higher on, I think, than the consensus of fans. So you're looking at an average level player there. So you have a bunch of either plus average or really good pieces for the most part, minus Myers. So if it's not a very good unit, it's going to be a huge disappointment. And like you heard DeMario talk about a couple of days ago, it starts with the run game. It starts with stopping the run game in football on defense. And obviously, if you want to establish that run game on offense, we need an offensive line to dominate. And you're just hoping with some semblance of a passing attack with a threat of Geno's arm, even though he's not, prime Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. Just the fact that he will throw the ball deep. You can't stack the box with 7-8 guys consistently. And if you do, hopefully the Jets burn them, which is something that obviously could not do last year because Justin Fields could barely complete a forward pass. What was it versus the Broncos? We had negative something yards, right? It's negative 50 or whatever the hell that was. So the offense will go as the offensive line dictates.
I mean, if the Jets at this point don't have a top 10 offensive line by the end of the year, unless there are just catastrophic injuries, I'm going to be disappointed, Joe. They've invested too much in this unit for it to not be that level of offensive line. We're talking about 2 premium picks at each tackle spot. We'll get to Membu. We're going to do a film breakdown on him in particular just to show how impressive he was in his first year. And you look at Tipman, I think he's still an ascending player that I hope they ultimately extend before the season. No matter how anyone feels about Olu Fashanu, he's still a young player who's only going to get better. You've invested too much for this offensive line to not be one of the better units in the league. I don't know if you've heard of the tomato can theory, but I've heard NFL teams talk about this before. If you have 3 good offensive linemen, and as long as the other 2 are not just tomato cans, awful, you should have a pretty good offensive line. And if your quarterback is competent, that's enough to win in the NFL.
Yeah, I think people look at other teams and maybe overrate the talent other teams have. Most teams have a weak link or 2 on the offensive line, which supports the tomato can theory. I would like to be a little bit greedy and really shore up center so that then every single player you have is either average or better than average, which would make for probably what should be close to a top 5 offensive line, but the floor should be bottom 9, 10 or near the 9, 10 range in terms of the offensive lines in the league. So yeah, they invested a first round pick, right? In Fashanu, we traded down, right? So he ended up being 11 or 12. Membu was pick 7. Tipman was top of the second round. You gave Parham not a huge contract, but a starting level contract. They've invested plenty. Like what he said, they've had some continuity now, which is part of the reason, not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons I keep Tipman at guard is to not screw with Membu either, because you get used to the guy next to you. So I think he's better at guard regardless, but then also with Membu playing next to him, I'm not moving Tipman at all. So you have continuity there. I think Parham maybe has less of a high ceiling in terms of like play-by-play than a John Simpson, but he's very consistent, or he should be very consistent next to Fashanu, so that might help him out a little bit more. So yeah, anything less than near the top 10 would be disappointing for me. And I think the ceiling, you could be talking about potentially top 5, especially if Fashanu takes leaps that I expect him or hope that he makes. We'll do him in our breakdown too. I'm a little bit lower on what Fashanu did last year than some other people. But with that being said, he's 21, 22 years old, going into his 3rd year. So I expect some development. But if Membu, who we'll talk about, continues to progress, you're talking about potentially an all-pro level player. Like he was probably a top 10 right tackle in his first year. And he's young as hell still. So I'm very, very excited about that right side specifically.
I'm glad you teed me up perfectly, because this was Damien Woody specifically talking about what he saw from Armand Membu during his rookie year with the Jets.
Thoroughly impressed with Armand Membu as a rookie. I looked at him and then I just started thinking, I'm like, golly, that dude looks a lot like me. When I was playing, just big dancing bear type of guy, didn't need much help at right tackle, like being able to displace people, attitude, brings an edginess that the offense needs. Think about this. You saw all of that stuff in year 1. Imagine what he's going to be in year 2. That's usually when you make your biggest jump, is from year 1 to year 2.
Check out the full interview that Will did with D Wood. It's really good. And I definitely recommend it if you're a diehard Jet fan like we all are, watching and doing Jet content in early June here. But look, I thought Membu was exceptional last season, Joe. I really do. And it goes back to his first game, right? I mean, he was put through the ringer week 1 against TJ Watt in his debut, and he shut him down. And Myles Garrett, who got traded, Myles Garrett did absolutely nothing against Armand Membu when they met in the regular season at MetLife. I mean, I was blown away with how good Membu was. If the Jets weren't trash, I think he gets Rookie of the Year votes if they were just relevant.
Yeah, again, predictably, he's going to be the 2nd best Jet on the 2026 Jets. So I'm very high on him. You saw some really, really high level plays from him. And we'll look at that. Some stuff you do not see rookies do. And this is no offense to Damien Woody. Like, I think Armand Membu is going to be better than Woody. I don't know if Woody ever made an all-pro. I think he's a pro bowler maybe once or twice, but I don't think he's ever an all-pro level player. And to me, if Membu reaches his ceiling, you're talking about a top 5 right tackle for many, many years. So 2-3 all-pro selections, 5 or 6 Pro Bowls. And this is obviously me not saying that this is definitely going to happen, but I'm saying if he reaches his ceiling, that's what he could do. And his first year was a hot start towards being that player, because I was more impressed than I thought I would be. And I was high on him, I was high on him coming out of college, and he only impressed me more than I thought he would.
So Damien Woody made a Pro Bowl in his career, won 2 Super Bowls, of course, with that team up north, but he never made an all-pro team. And I think you're right, Joe. I think Membu has that type of production. I'll tell you who agrees with you. Josh Myers, this team's starting center. He spoke to the media after OTA practice today. This was Myers talking about Armand Membu.
Membu has the ability to be like great, like one of the greats. There's a lot that needs to happen between now and then, but he's got the talent, he's got the mentality. He's a heck of a player.
The best tackle that I ever saw play for the Jets in my lifetime as a fan is DeBrickashaw Ferguson. The best lineman, I would say, is the late great Nick Mangle. But specifically talking tackles, I think the best I've seen in my lifetime rooting for the Jets was DeBrickashaw, for how consistent he was. Plus, he was a left tackle. I'm telling you, Armand Membu, if he's healthy and builds on what he did, he's got a chance to be the best offensive lineman we've seen put on a Jet uniform over the last 20, 25 years. He was that impressive, as you'll show on film coming up here in his rookie season.
Yeah. And again, this is not to discredit Fashanu, but Brick, because Brick was great and he was very consistent, but he was never like the best. Again, maybe Jets fans are going to argue with me, but I think, typically Jets fans wear those green goggles. I don't think he was ever like the top of the top. I think he was near the top 5 at times, maybe even close to the top 3. But he's more like Fashanu, where he's very technical, but not the most physical, not the most dominant run blocker. Membu has that power that Brick and Fashanu can only dream of. Like he could be really, really dominant in the run game. He's farther along as a pass protector. He was coming out of college as well, and some people misconstrued that because they saw a 4 or 5 game highlight against Oklahoma, and now he's automatically a good run blocker. That's what happens on Twitter. But Membu is very, very far along as a pass blocker, but his just physical capability to move guys in the run game, both Brick and Fashion, you just do not possess. So I think he has a higher ceiling than both of those players. And obviously, hey, listen, I'll sign up for a Brick career right now with the consistency, the Pro Bowls. He was here for every game, all that stuff. So I'm not trying to discredit him as a player, but in terms of ceiling, Membu's to me is undoubtedly higher.
3-time Pro Bowl selection to Brickishaw Ferguson. So I certainly would take that, but I think Membu's ceiling could be even higher than that. So only time will tell, but I feel really good about him after his first year. If you're watching the show live right now, please click the like button and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. If you tuned in late, again, we officially announced it to the general public. Our event the day before Jets Titans in Nashville. Spread the word to anyone you know going to the game. The party of all parties for Jet fans will be at Barstool Nashville from 4 to 7 the day before the Jets Titans. All the info is linked in the description. Lock in your spot. It is free as long as you RSVP. The Jake Asman Show is now presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy app made simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build your lineup in seconds. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And PrizePicks is already offering NFL futures, including futures for New York Jets players. Take a look at the lineup that you see on the screen. Garrett Wilson, more than 4.5 reception touchdowns. David Bailey, he's going to have at least 7 sacks his rookie year. Arvell Reese, almost a Jet. I think he'll have at least 3 sacks in his rookie year with the Giants. That is a 3-pick power play, $10 to pay out $60. That is just an example of some of the lineups you can make over at PrizePicks. Make your own lineups today for any sport. Just download the PrizePicks app. Use the code HMA and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, Joe, I'm excited to see some Membu film here. Usually when we did Jets film this past year, it was brutal, but we got some positivity from one of the young studs on this team. So whenever you're ready, let's pull up the first Armand Membu clip and just show people why people like yourself, Damien Woody, Josh Myers, are so bullish on what he could be as a player going forward.
Yeah. Actually, hold on. Let me change it up really quickly, Jake. And I'll share my entire screen. It's a lot of good from him. I'm definitely more nitpicky than a lot of other people out there. So I don't really have a ton of criticisms of Membu. Now there were some like mental lapses and stuff that showed up, and there are some weaknesses even in the past game that we could talk about. But again, in general, for his rookie season, I was super, super high on it. So yeah, more than glad to show some film. Most of it's going to be pass protection, I believe, but just let me know when we're good to go.
We could see you. We see the screen. And for those who are unaware, Membu is the right tackle in all these plays.
Yes, I will circle him every single time so you can see where exactly he is. But yes, the mammoth at right tackle is going to be Membu. But just a very, and again, we'll run through these relatively quickly just because we have like 10-ish plays of each guy. So I don't want to spend too much time on each guy, but he does a really good job on this play. One, he's jump setting the defensive end here because they're running a play action. So you have to sell it like it's actually a run block, and does a really good job of
that's on Reddick.
Number 7. Yeah. So he was number 7, right? With them?
Yep.
No, 5. Was he 5?
I'll look it up, but I think that might be Reddick there.
Yeah. Okay. That might be 5.
He wore 5.
Jake. Yeah. That looks like it's 5.
Yep. He wore 5. So that's him.
Him versus Membu versus Reddick. So jump sets him, right, because we're looking at play action. Comes to balance as he's getting into contact, right? We don't want to be overzealous. We don't want to get on our toes. Lands the right hand with good timing. This is what we call a snatch and trap. So snatch him, right? Grab him, extend him, and now when he starts to extend, Reddick is going to naturally start to lean back into Membu and use force against force, but Membu knows, okay, I have him extended. He's starting to lean into this hand. So when he leans into that hand, a lot of his balance is very dependent on that hand. It's like you leaning into a wall. And if your hand was chopped down, you'd kind of fall into the wall. So he's heavily leaning on an arm. Chop it down. We're going to see him get off balance here. He then refits the hands and completely stands up Reddick on this play. So really good hand usage as a rookie here. Quickly jump setting, snatching, and trapping Reddick, who is at least a decent pass rusher. So a good start for Membu there. Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna skip this one real quick. We'll go to the next. We'll go to 25. Pancake in the pass game for Membu on this one. This is him. I don't know who exactly this is, but the end right here, we'll watch it and we'll talk about it a little bit after. With him just straight pancaking guys in the pass game. It was very fun to watch last year. But another play action here. So he's going to jump set. He's going to get on the defensive end's toes quickly just to sell that run game. Again, good timing with the right hand. Hand lands directly into the chest of the defensive lineman. Good base from Membu. Gets the extension. The defensive end is just going to try to turn the corner right here on Membu. Feels Membu leaning into him. Membu does a good job of leaning into him and putting a lot of pressure on him up the arc. Again, plenty of space right here for Tyrod Taylor. He has 8 yards right there. This defensive end is feeling, okay, I'm not going to win this rep versus Membu. I'm going to try to spin to the inside. Membu stays attached, throws him to the turf, allowing Tyrod Taylor to underthrow a deep ball that should be a touchdown. I believe was this one. The ball was late and it was way too high for Josh Reynolds, but
that was at that
really
game.
Good. Ugh. Yeah. I believe it happened back to back, or maybe not back to back, but one play and then there's a run play and another deep pass that was late. It was the flea flicker or whatever it was.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but great block by Membu on that one. I'm going to show you a quick one with some of the hand usage. So this is kind of a technique. I call it an overlap technique, and it's something like a vet savvy type of tackle does. And it's very quick and it doesn't look like a big deal on this play. But what's happening here is he starts to set out to his right to Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick drops back into coverage, right? So there's really no other threat out here for him to block. So instead of just him kind of covering grass here, he steps back to the inside, uses that overlap technique, which is basically like a tag on Tippmann, letting him know, hey, basically I am here. Stay a little bit more inside to your left. I got number 90 here outside to your right. Picks up 90, lands the right hand into the chest on him again. Feels 90, again, now leaning into that long arm. Defeat that arm, right? If a lot of the balance is dependent on this hand and you could chop that arm down specifically at the elbow because that's where your arm naturally breaks, do that, does exactly that, chops the arm down. Now he's off balance, overtake the block. So it's little things like this is what can help out your teammates with a guy who's confident in pass protection using that overlap technique. Now 50, which is Vita Vea, has two hands on him or two bodies on him instead of just having one. So just little things like that Membu does in pass protection for a rookie or is very, very impressive to me. So let's see this one, play 28, Membu trap. Yeah, so this is one against 90, which is Barrymore, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken on who exactly that is, but another example of him pass protection pancake right here for Membu. And whether this be he feels the bull rush coming or just based on film study or the rest of the game, knowing that this guy typically leans into his hands very quickly, Membu doesn't even engage with him. He just knows those hands are going to be out there, or he feels them coming, feels 90 starting to lean into those hands or going to lean into those hands, double chops the hands down. Now 90 has nothing to counteract that, no balance there, shoves him to the turf, lays on him, play is completely over. For, again, a rookie just completely cleaning guys up in the pass protection game. It was really, really fun to watch with him. Just a high-level pass protector at this point, which is what you want. In a rookie who's a top 10 pick, but he was even far and above that. So here, another trap technique on 94. I think this is a pass play. So another play where we're looking at, okay, play action, selling the run here, works down to 94. Another situation where he's really good at kind of feeling guys lean into him, gets hands on, feels 94 leaning into that left hand, and he uses, I can't tell if he uses it's either a cuff technique or he just chops that arm. Regardless, he defeats that inside arm, which he's leaning into a lot again. Another play where this is not where you want to be as a defensive lineman. I'm not even meaning like that, Jake. I'm not even trying to get the calm your freaky down here, but being in a situation like this, let's wind it back a few frames. This is not the spot you want to be in on that play. So I'll move to the next one. This one he's actually beat.
Hey, congrats on the sex.
This one. So he's actually beat here. This is not something I see a lot of guys do, even in their second, third, fourth years. Not a lot of guys possess again, for the nerdy people out there, like slingshot technique in their arsenal. But he's beat here initially, and then he uses a slingshot technique, which we'll talk about what it is after. But it's a really good recovery from Membu here. So let's watch it again. He gets beat to the inside, and then what he does there is, again, that slingshot technique. So he oversets here a little bit, right? 40 times or 41 times it well and crosses his face. But what that slingshot technique is basically just using their momentum against them. So what you're going to do with that slingshot for Membu here is you're going to grab the V of the neck or wherever you can on that jersey. You're going to pull him forward while also pushing his back. So you're quite literally using that momentum and kind of just literally pulling him towards it. Yeah, you're basically throwing him to where he's already going, but it's going to make him off balance because he's leaning heavily into it. So grab that V of the neck, rip him forward, push him forward. You're going to see how it gets him off balance, and then he spins, gets back in on the, he doesn't spin. He works back to him, gets back in on the block. There's not a lot of guys who use a slingshot technique in general for a rookie to do that at 20, 21 years old. I know offensive line is more, again, it's a very niche position. It's really for the nerds out there. This is high level stuff, not even just for a rookie, just for anybody in general. So very impressive play right there for him. I got 2 left of the good, and we can get into some of the bad if you even want to touch on the bad. Membu combo block right here on 90 with Ruckert. I believe, yeah, it's a combo with Ruckert on this one. Does a really good job. We kind of talked about what a wrench technique was in the last stream. I believe it was with Sadiq blocking, but he does a really good job here of just it's basically hand placement that he does excellent job here with. So they're hitting this run to the outside, obviously with like a zone toss, and what he does here is combos with Ruckert, good leverage into the block, right? Good leverage, rolls the hips. He gets his right hand into, again, the chest here. The left hand is nice and tight into the hip. You want to drive the hip, not higher than that. When you attack the hip, you're attacking the center of gravity, and that's what creates movement. The right hand stays in front, and then what he's going to try to do is like swivel his hips in front of him to have that play side leverage. He wants to win this C gap. So working through the right into the chest, puts the left into the small of the back right here, ends up again extending with the left and extending or straightening with the left, straightening with the right, gets in front of that gap, torques him to the ground, pancake in the run game there, I believe, on Barrymore. But really, really good hand placement, strength, working the feet, positional leverage, eventually wrenching him to the ground, all excellent from Membu. And then this is one in his second game against Joey Bosa, who is injured quite often, but still a good player. And it's little things that can win you a rep here. And you can see him start to feel this bull rush out. He gets into a vertical set. And as
week
Joey
2, by the way, like think about that.
Week 2. As Joey Bosa does a good job of working angles, right? Like he's going vertical, heavy inside angle in that bull rush. Membu is initially vertical setting, and then he feels that bull rush coming. So we're going to see him. He like throws his ass back here in preparation for that anchor. If you get caught high like this in a bull rush, for the most part, you're going to be screwed. So he feels it coming. Good hand placement into the shoulder, preps the anchor, hops back into it, locks up Joey Bosa, giving Fields enough time to get rid of that ball. So really, really high level hand usage, really, really high level, like overlap techniques, slingshot, wrenching guys. There's a lot of little stuff he's doing that you do not see from guys his age. So that's the good of Membu. Do you want to do the bad? We can pass the bad. There's really not a lot. What I could say with Membu, just specifically from the bad, I can just kind of wrap it up. There were some mental lapses, right? Like the one play, if I'm still on the screen, like there's a few plays where like he just didn't move at the snap against Miami and gave up like a pressure and stuff. Like you saw some of this stuff with Membu. And then I would say in general, in the pass protection game, what he needs to work on is at times his outside hand can be too high, and then his hand ends up slipping over the outside shoulder of guys. And he can overset slightly, but there's really not a lot of issues with Membu. So we'll stay with the positive. We won't recap any of the bad, because I do have to get into some bad of fashion when we get there.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.